Today we're going to discuss the police officer involved shooting that happened last week in Madison, Wisconsin. The left says it was an unjustified state-sanctioned execution. The right says if you resist arrest with a knife, you're gonna get got, and the police just did their jobs. And we're gonna take a look at the incident, the evidence, the subsequent response in the form of protests, of course the encampment, and make up our own minds. As a side note, while I no longer live in Madison, I did live there for quite a few years, so I think there are some insights I can provide, more broadly speaking. The incident occurred July 22nd on a Wednesday around midday in the intersection of South Baldwin Street and Williamson Street on the east side of Madison, colloquially referred to as the Willie Street area. This is a very quaint neighborhood with a mix of residential properties and lots of small, independently owned businesses, bakeries, coffee shops, shops of other forms. There's always lots of people walking around, biking around, etc. Now, according to the City of Madison public announcement, the officers were dispatched into the area because someone called saying there's a man checking parked cars' door handles. When the police arrived, the man attempted to flee on his bike. He was intercepted in the intersection of South Baldwin and Williamson, and he was either pulled off his bike or fell off his bike before the interaction continued to escalate. The man in question, his name is Corey Ruiz. He's a 38-year-old half-black, half-Hispanic fella. Now, I personally don't think race needs to be involved in this discussion at all. However, as you'll see later into this video, one side is adamant on making this entirely about race, so I think it's important to get the facts straight. Now, we don't really need to question whether he fell off his bike or he was pulled off his bike, because there is bystander video of this happening during the chase. So we can see the officer on a foot pursuit and Corey Ruiz on his bike falling off when he enters the intersection. Now there's some lapse in time because the next bystander footage I was able to find, there are 4 cops on the scene. And a quick note, I'm not going to show the moment the shots are being fired. We're going to discuss the right before and the right after. If you want to see that footage, it's pretty much available all over X at this time. Now in the next footage, you'll see the 4 police officers struggling with Corey and Corey resisting. You'll sort of hear the police officer to the right on the ground yell, "He's got a knife, he's got a knife." Then a female officer will enter the scene and deploy her taser while saying taser, taser. Then the shots will be fired. And in that moment, Officer Keel Peterson shoots Corey Ruiz 3 times, ending his life. Here's my take on the moderate stance. I don't think you should get shot by the police simply for having a knife on you. So the question is, did he pull out the knife during the struggle? If he pulled out the knife, then I do think the police were simply doing their jobs at that point. Because at the end of the day, I think people forget that police officers are also human beings and they have a right to go home after work alive to their families. However, if Corey did not pull out the knife during the struggle, then this would be a gross use of excessive force resulting in murder by the police. This one angle isn't sufficient to be confident in regards to what's going on with the knife, so we have to look for more footage. The next video is slightly more close up, where the volume has been increased, so we can more clearly hear the officer on the right warning the other officers that Corey has a knife. In the next footage, you'll see after Corey has been shot, one of the officers going over to his body and removing the knife. And it's right there. But from this angle, we still can't quite see what's happening with the knife during the struggle. Now I'm going to slow this video down a little bit so we can have a better chance at seeing what's going on. But before I do, I would just like to point your attention to how some people just can't help themselves but make this about race. Has to be mentioned that it was a white police officer that shot Corey, as if that's the reason he shot Corey, because he is white and Corey is black and Hispanic or whatnot. I think a better and more constructive lens to discuss this incident through would be whether the use of excessive force by the police was appropriate or not. But some people just cannot help themselves to make everything about race, as if you can't go online and find a bunch of videos of police shooting white people with knives. Flash news, you can. Alright, so that's Kill Peterson on the ground. At this time, he has Corey Ruiz as right hand. The struggle is ongoing. And I would like to point your attention to right here where their arms are merging. You can kind of see the flash of metal and potentially the handle of the knife. You can just kind of keep your eye on this particular area. And notice how it's moving. Now back to the Madison police report. According to the police, Corey produced a fixed blade knife during the incident. And here is the knife. They say that he injured an officer, who I assume to be Keel Peterson, because that's who looks like was struggling over the knife with him. They used a taser that was unsuccessful, which we saw earlier in the video. Now I'd like to point out that's not like a pocket knife that needs to be opened before it can be harmful to anyone. That is a large fixed blade kitchen knife. Now, in my personal opinion, it does seem to me like Corey did pull out the knife during the struggle, at which point the police would have the right to use lethal force to defend themselves. However, it is frustrating that we're limited to these grainy from a distance bystander footage instead of body cam footage, which would allow us to more clearly see what's happening in the midst of the struggle. But there is no body cam footage from this incident. Why? Is it because Madison Police Department, a police department in one of the most liberal cities in the country, doesn't like to put on their body cam when they're going out to hunt people of color? No. It's because the very merry liberal city council of Madison refused to fund body cams. This article is from less than a year ago. The amendment for funding body cams was voted against 17-3. Now, I will argue this amendment was created to fail from the start, because instead of directly funding the body cams, they wanted to transfer money from the Office of Independent Police Monitor to the program to fund body cameras for the police. Like I've said before, Madison is a very, very liberal city, so they were certainly not going to defund the police monitor to fund the police, even if it means having body cameras so that we can see what the hell is going on during an incident like this, and we don't have to guess at with our personal biases embedded into the situation. Now, before we proceed, if you enjoy digging through the public catacombs we call the internet, please consider subscribing. Going back to the body cams, here's a statement from one of the city council elders, Will Ochowicz, made a day or two after the shooting, where he goes on to say, "I support getting police-worn body cameras. Oh, also, last year, I was one of the 17 elders who voted against the amendment to get body cameras." And then he goes on to justify why he did so, mainly saying it would be too expensive. Frankly, I just think this is a local politician trying to cover his back after backlash to the incident. "Oh, I support body cameras, but they're too expensive, and I don't like the amendment, but I'm not going to put out my own amendment to find a different way to fund it rather than getting the money from the police monitor." Okay, Mr. Will, it sounds to me like you don't support the police having body cameras then. He's covering his back. That's why he's making the statement 2 days after the incident rather than back in the end of 2025 when he initially voted against the amendment. And the statement that the city of Madison just doesn't have the money for body cams is absurd. In comparison to the areas around Madison, Madison has just some of the most absurdly high property taxes. The city's budget yearly is almost $500 million. Body cameras are standard across most police departments in the country. Everyone else can afford them, but the capital city in the state of Wisconsin somehow cannot afford body cameras. Now, if we're being really honest, I think what he can't afford is the optics of funding a program for the police in a city that's screaming and has been screaming to defund the police. This alder again goes on to talk about how he voted against it to protect the office of the independent police monitor and how important the office of the independent police monitor is. And a day after the incident, the independent police monitor of Madison released a statement saying they believe the Madison Police Department should have had body cameras a long time ago. Well, no shit. Curious to think the people who are supposed to be monitoring the police might want actual footage, clear footage from incidents in order to do their job to monitor police. Who would have thought? Before moving on to the discussion around the response in the form of protests and encampments, I would like to quickly address the fact that this is a topic that a lot of people have personal biases on. I think mainly because race, along with sex and sexuality and all sorts of other things, have been wedges used to divide the American people for going on nearly 2 decades, if not more at this point, so that the powers that be can have us fighting our neighbors while they go on to rob us blind, while they children on private islands, while they sell American farmland from underneath us to the Chinese and the Saudis, while they send American sons and daughters to go die in the Middle East on behalf of Israel. All the while they set a technocratic, totalitarian mass surveillance noose around our necks, which we can all feel getting tighter and tighter day by day. That is all to say, we have to get past this manufactured division in order to unite and take the country back if we want to have any chance at leaving a country, and especially a country with civil liberties, to our children. So to help undo some of that bias, I suggest if you're someone on the left who finds themselves saying all cops are bad, abolish the police, please go watch some donut operator videos so you can actually see the type of violent psychos many police officers have to deal with day in and day out to keep the rest of us safe. And if you're someone on the right who finds themselves always agreeing with the police and thinking that the police could never do wrong because somehow they are above the fallibility of being a human being, please go watch The Civil Rights Lawyer, because he does a great job documenting the bad apples who do trample over innocent American citizens' civil liberties and shit all over the Constitution while they're on a power trip. And finally, both sides should absolutely watch The Lead Attorney, because he does a great job breaking down both what the police and the civilian does right or wrong during any altercation or encounter, legally speaking. He has a great phrase which I think is accurate. The time to defend your rights isn't on the pavement, it's in the courtroom in front of a judge. And now for the protests. Naturally, things started out with some regular street protests, defund the police signs, some say his names, some classic chants for F the police department, which I just realized I can't play the audio on YouTube because they just say F MPD over and over again. Led by the Democratic Socialist Party of Wisconsin, part of the organizers for these events and protests. And I would like to draw your attention to this little colorful logo here that says FI in the middle. That stands for and is the logo of Freedom Inc., another one of the organizing organizations, which we will get around to later in this video. Now, Corey Ruiz is a career criminal with 43 entries in his public Wisconsin CCAP records, going all the way back to 2007, basically from the moment that he became an adult adult. Now, I'm not going to focus at all on the ridiculous amount of disorderly conducts, drug offenses, theft, bail jumping, resisting arrest, driving other people's vehicles without consent, basically the petty crimes. However, I do think the violent crimes are worth mentioning. For example, the 2 counts of strangulation that he got during a robbery with use of force against 2 women, or the battery charge against another woman. A couple years later, he's still not learning his lesson because we got more battery charges. The strangulation and suffocation charge this time around was dropped. And I'm sorry, I've been saying just charges here, but the ones where he pleads guilty are in fact convictions. So everything I've listed thus far, except this new strangulation charge, which was dropped this time around. We got a conviction for viewing / broadcasting / recording individuals' genitals, for which he was told not to show up to Madison College again. Oh look, we have resisting officer with substantial bodily harm / soft tissue injury, and the audacity of battery or threat to judge, prosecutor, or law enforcement officer. Now, I'm not bringing all this up because I think criminals deserve to get shot on the street. There are very few crimes you can commit where I would think that, one of which would be harming children in the Jeffrey Epstein manner. I am having a hard time understanding the public outrage for a guy who's out here strangling and physically harming women, and not just once, multiple times. I recognize that there are a lot of people out there who have not looked into the background of this case as I have, and there's also plenty of people who are too biased to see this as anything but a racially motivated murder. And while I do not agree with that, we do have the First Amendment and freedom of speech, which includes protests, peaceful protests, and that right must be defended regardless of if you agree with what people are saying or protesting or you don't agree with it. So these initial set of protests, I don't have a personal problem with. Even if I don't agree with the cause, they have a right to exercise their First Amendment speech as American citizens. However, there is something to be discussed regarding certain elements of the protests that developed over the days and weeks, and that is you absolutely can protest in a way which pushes people away from your cause rather than bringing them towards your cause, even people who might have been sympathetic towards your cause at the start. And it is quite mind-boggling to me because I see the left do this all the frickin' time. A great example is during October 7th. Younger conservatives were already turning against Israel because we're all sick of sending money to Israel. We're sick of getting into forever wars in the Middle East for Israel that has no benefit to America or Americans while America is falling apart. The left, instead of recognizing this room for a coalition from both the left and the right for a common denominator agreement of no longer sending money to Israel, which would have had broad support among young conservatives, they decided to make it entirely about globalizing the Intifada and from the river to the sea, and as a result managed to accomplish absolutely nothing. As you can see, Palestinians are still being slaughtered to this day, and we're still funding this because the left doesn't know how to form a coalition utilizing the common denominator point of agreement from both sides to actually get something done. The left and the right uniting on the point of no longer funding and giving any money to Israel for defense or weapons would have done a hell lot more to help Palestinians than morally grandstanding for social media and virtue signaling that you're on the side of the Palestinians. Now, to bring it back to today's topic, they're doing it again. They're protesting in the most obnoxious way possible to push even people who might be sympathetic to their cause away from their cause. How about disrupting and taking over a concert event?
Black Lives Matter! You can be matter! Black Lives Matter! You can be matter! Black Lives Matter! Say his name! Corey! Say his name! Corey! Corey!
I'm sure all these concert goers who pay to have these seats are now absolutely on the side of the protesters and are not annoyed at all. How about taking over the Mayor's Innovation Project summer meeting? Really forming that coalition, screaming in people's faces.
I shouldn't have to fill out my sister not gonna get home.
She's upset. Is this how we should all act when we're upset? How about linking arms to blockade local bars and businesses?
I got it. It's closed! Justice for Corey now open! Come back another time! Bye-bye!
It's closed. Come back another time. Bye-bye. Who the do you think you are? Those people that just walked away from an opportunity to enjoy their nights after work? You think they're now on the protesters' side? Local businesses, am I right? Ah, yes, block the Beltline because people don't need to get to work and ambulances don't need to get to people having medical emergencies. Block more roads, stop cars, harass innocent people.
The only reason I am screaming in your face is because you're out of your car. Get your hands back in your car.
I'm sorry, this behavior is disgusting. She's saying the only reason I'm screaming in your face while holding a microphone a foot from this woman's face is because you're out of your car. Get back in your mother effing car. Again, who the do these people think they are? You're blocking the road. Just be thankful that this isn't Florida. For some reason, blocking roads is like a preferred strategy. Not recognizing you're just, again, turning regular people away from your cause. Or maybe they do recognize it and that's the goal. Just create more division. Why not just walk up in front of or scoot up in front of cars and kick people's cars as they drive by on the road? Screaming right in people's faces with megaphones is becoming another recognizable strategy. You know, I'm pretty sure that's East Washington they're blocking in this video. It's a pretty major road in Madison. Again, one in which ambulances go up and down all day to get to different parts of the city. I mean, this is the absolute height of being a public nuisance and agitating. I keep seeing this person in that striped shirt with her or his whatever red megaphone screaming in a bunch of different people's faces for some reason.
Hey! If we don't get no justice, that's what we're at. Then why do we Black people!
See, same person with the same shirt, same hat, same megaphone, different locations screaming in another lady's face while blocking the road, simply agitating people, being a whole ass nuisance, and rallying up support for your cause. What's mind-boggling to me is they're doing this in a city with a bunch of very liberal people against the police department that is very liberal, to the point they'll like use people's preferred pronouns during police interactions. I mean, the Madison Police Department at this point is so neutered to this woke BS that they even let this nut job that I'm about to show you take over a police press conference regarding the incident. I mean, just take a look at this, please.
The thinness of trust in the city right now did not start.
No, we can shut this down. You can stop talking because we don't want to hear anything you've been saying. You're going to say the same thing you all say every time a black body gets shot down in this city. This is a corrupt city. That's right. Have no fear.
For the record, the last time a black individual was killed by the police in Madison was like 10, 11 years ago. I think it was 2015.
Zionist is here. You understand me? You won't be able to talk today because I'm going to keep talking because I was born to talk my talk and walk my walk too. I told these young people.
This police chief, just look at the man's face. He knows if he interrupts him, it's just gonna be more BS. It just has to nod along.
Back here on our way here, that we have the power. Not that badge, not that weapon. We have the power. The city of Madison is corrupt. From the DA to the what's the name of this?
I love how he's crowdsourcing the info in the moment. What's the name again?
Department of Independent Monitoring. We don't want any of that talk. You've given us this speech with "you'll deliver justice." Oh, we've seen the cameras. We've seen. It was a knife in this young man's hand. We don't want to hear that today.
They don't want to hear it today. You heard it. Oh, we've seen cameras, knife in the young man's hand. We don't want to hear that today. You just don't want to hear the facts. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
What do you have to say about that? No. Oh, you don't get to talk, I said.
Right.
Go ahead.
Just an absolutely neutered police department that has no support from its very liberal city leadership. I feel really bad for this chief of police guy. He can't even hold his own press conference.
I'll step aside. And
That's right. Give me this microphone then. Excuse me. That's right.
Are we for real, guys? Are we for real?
My name is Carlos Dixon. I represent APTAP, all power to all people, zero power to Zionists.
All power to all people except white people. We know. People aren't dumb. We kind of see how this has been evolving over the years.
Zero power to capitalists, zero power to colonialism. What you are doing right now in this city is continuing the disgusting nature of colonialism.
Brother, Madison is literally one of the wokest cities in the country. If you don't like it here, can't help you. I would say move to another country, but I don't think you'll find a country. Maybe Canada. Maybe you could go to Canada. That might be the one place that's left that's like woker than Madison. I mean, I got all around secondhand embarrassment from watching that. So those were all from the first leg of the protests. The second leg of the protests occurred at the site of the incident in Willie Street, where they made a memorial with flowers in the first few days. I think that's totally fine. Whether you agree with what happened or not, let people have a place in the community to come and, get their emotions out and support each other. That all sounds fine. However, of course, it wasn't enough to have a memorial for a day or two. They decided to attempt to permanently block this intersection by creating a Seattle Chaz-style autonomous zone, which eventually devolved into a homeless encampment. Of course, with zero care for the local residents or businesses. Here's a map of the area they managed to block off for their autonomous zone. The city even left some trucks to reinforce the barricade that the protesters / encampment folks formed with the trash cans. Now the right is saying, oh look, the liberal city is helping the protesters. I actually think the city was being smart containing the encampment to make sure it didn't spread beyond where they left their garbage trucks and bringing in porta potties so that these people aren't literally shitting out on the street everywhere. A safer way to contain than the nails the protesters left out on the road around the encampment. I actually reached out to a business that I know in the local affected area to get their opinion and take on the situation. They informed me that the encampment cut their business down at least by half, because no wonder no one wants to walk around and be in or bring their kids to a giant homeless encampment. They informed me that the protesters were accosting random walker-bys and journalists, that they were threatening businesses with vandalism if the businesses didn't let the protesters, stop by and under their AC and get water and use their bathrooms. One of the people I spoke with, which I'm obviously not going to name, nor will I name the business because I'm not trying to put a target on their back, even said they lived in the affected area as well, so they're both working and living there 24/7 dealing with this BS. They can't get away from it. Now, one other interesting thing they mentioned to me is they believe the organization Freedom Inc. is paying people $50 a day day to remain at the encampment. Here's the website and logo of Freedom Inc. You'll see this again. According to them, Freedom Inc. is a Black and South Asian nonprofit organization that works with low to no income communities of color, and their mission is to achieve social justice through coupling direct services with leadership development and community organizing that will bring about social, political, cultural, and economic change, resulting in the end of violence against women, gender non-conforming and transgender folks, and children within communities of color. While sporting protests for a guy who not just arrested but was convicted for strangling multiple women and battery against women is definitely an interesting way to end violence against women, but okay. Now, I haven't been able to personally confirm the claim that Freedom Inc. is paying $50 a day for people to remain at the encampment. However, I've noticed Freedom Inc. popping up in interesting ways in relation to these protests. I was watching one of the videos from the protests and I noticed that all three of the giant banners in the front had Freedom Inc. logos. That's interesting. Now, if we look at their Facebook page and scroll to about when the incident took place on July 22nd. I don't know about paying protesters, but they have certainly been organizing it from start to finish. From the day of, they've been posting nonstop about it, filming the takeover of the concert at the Capitol, using very inflammatory language before anyone knew what the hell was going on, since we don't have body cam footage. Overall, trying to get everyone out onto the streets. I guess doing little educational pop-up shops at the encampment. And I like to point out, when I can find agreement with people, I agree that the enemy is the state. I also agree that the state uses tactics like isolating people, manufacturing distrust, rewarding division to keep us fighting each other instead of the institutions. But I think they're doing the exact same thing. You see, if you really want to take on the state, the citizens have to unite regardless of if you're Christian or Muslim or Jewish or black or white or gay or straight. But whether this organization recognizes it or not, their inflammatory approach to everything is resulting in division of the people. In effect, accomplishing the state's goals. I mean, that's just what's gonna happen if you make everything about race. I swear it feels like sometimes people on the left are trying to keep racism alive. Like racism is in the ICU and they're just pumping it full of all the drugs they can think of just to keep it breathing, preventing the heart monitor of racism from flatlining. So after about 2 weeks of letting the encampment do its thing, the city finally decided to clear it out and open the roads and allow the people and businesses in the neighborhood to go on with their lives. And Freedom Inc. is making posts trying to get reinforcements to the encampment. What, to clash with the police trying to clear it out? To get more people hurt so that you can justify the existence of your organization? They decided to then organize a counter raid on the mayor's house, which frankly, this is what the mayor gets for letting this get out of hand and go on for 2 weeks, in my opinion. But the statement, the encampment full of women, children, and pregnant people, threw me for a loop because I did stop by the encampment shortly when I was talking to the business regarding how it affected them. I didn't see any pregnant women or children there. Doesn't mean there weren't any at any point during the 2 weeks the encampment was in place. But the claim of the encampment being full of children and pregnant people pregnant people. You mean pregnant women, but okay. Is at best a overly manipulative and false statement. It was mostly dudes. There were women there too, of course, adults. That's the case of what I saw with my own eyes, and that's certainly the case when you watch the footage online of the encampment over the 2 weeks. Which actually brings me to a side point that I do think is kind of important. Protests by their very nature are chaotic, volatile, can get unsafe pretty quickly. So if you're someone who values their kids' safety, which you should be if you're a parent, more so than protesting, don't bring your kids, especially young kids, to a protest. Get a babysitter, send them to their friend's house, the grandparents' house, go protest yourself as an adult, but don't bring kids to it. Don't bring kids to a volatile, chaotic environment. I genuinely believe people who bring young kids to protests are some of the most despicable people who do not have their priorities straight. Kids in strollers, are these people crazy? You might ask, what else is Freedom Inc. doing right about now?
Right now, organizers with Freedom Inc. and Free the 350 Bail Fund are outside of the Dane County Jail, bailing out at least, is what I'm told, 50 people today.
Surely they're determining who they're bailing out by ensuring it's people who either committed nonviolent offenses or who likely didn't commit the crimes they're being accused of.
We're just going down the list. We're going down the list. We got all our black inmates on the list, so we're going by the age. We're going by the age, women, age, youth, LGBTQ. Those are our primary ones.
Got it. So race, sex, sexual orientation, just by the line of identity politics. No consideration for the severity of the crime, what they're being accused of, anything like that. That's not going into the consideration at all. You don't want to tell people about that, maybe. Now, Freedom Inc. is also the organization that was organizing the protests during 2020 in Madison during the height of BLM. And this article cites them as an organization advocating for the release of all African Americans from jail and defunding the police. This is what I mean by a divisive organization. What do you mean by release all African Americans from jail? People from every single racial group commit very serious offenses like murder and the sort. That includes white people, that includes African Americans. So by saying release all African Americans from jail, it sounds to me like you're saying literally just release people based on race. A more successful and less divisive platform might have been release all nonviolent offenders from jail. Wouldn't that benefit African Americans who are in jail for nonviolent offenses, along with other people who are in jail for nonviolent offenses? For example, let's say smoking pot. But no, it has to be along race. It has to be in a way that is divisive to American people. Oh, by the way, this organization that claims to be fighting against the state is funded both at the federal and state level by the state, so by you and me and all the other taxpayers. Oh, also this organization that totally doesn't function to divide the American people along identity politics lines has other great takes like going against body cameras circa 2020 at a time where you might want body cameras. I mean, I don't trust anyone who doesn't like body cameras. I don't trust police who would be against body cameras, and I certainly don't trust any organization that would be against body cameras. Body cameras are there to document the situation. More documentation is a good thing. It's going to exonerate whoever is in the right. So unless your goal is something other than figuring out who is in the right and who is in the wrong, say a goal that is entirely racially and identity politics motivated, you should want body cameras. And in general, I'm just incredibly wary and suspicious of NGOs, because whatever cause they proclaim to fight for or against, whatever issue it is, well, that issue needs to continue existing in order for that organization to be able to justify its existence and need for funding. That's called a perverse incentive. And they're not really non-governmental organizations, because a majority of the time they get a whole lot of their funding from the government. Finally, I think it is a great injustice to Black and brown kids in America to force them to grow up in a country where we inject as forcefully as we can this idea into their brains that the entire country and everyone's freaking racist, that cops are just gonna hunt them down and kill them for no reason other than that they're racist. I actually think that puts people of color in a lot more danger. If they go into an interaction with a police officer thinking that they're gonna be racist and they're gonna get killed, they're gonna escalate, they're gonna try to run away. In return, the police is gonna escalate, because de-escalation is a two-way street. And I think it is disgusting that we're forcing kids to grow up in a world where they think everyone is against them based on the color of their skin, that they're disadvantaged because of the color of their skin. Where in reality, America in 2026 is one of the best places to be. And people who are still screaming sexism and racism have not lived in other countries. We don't really know how good we have it here. That doesn't mean there aren't things we can work to improve on, but overall, in the scheme of the world, America is a pretty darn good place to call home, regardless of your race, sex, religion, whatever. And you know what? We could get a lot more done to improve all of our lives in this country if it wasn't for this divisive identity politics BS. All right, that's it. That's my thoughts for this particular video. I apologize, this one came out a bit late. Last week I was preparing for an interview relating to my Epstein research, so that delayed this video a little bit. If you enjoyed digging through the public catacombs we call the internet, please subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.